Welcome to Recross the Paths. My name is Cade. Today I'm here with Celaena. It's a treat to be here with you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Happy to talk about magic and gaming and projects.
Out in all sorts of things. We were kind of just laughing a moment ago about how many avenues we've already jumped down before you even hit record. So I'm excited to get to dive in here.
Branching conversations are probably the most sincere way that I would communicate. Getting me to stay on one topic and to lock into that is like a skill in itself.
It feels like there almost needs to be like a choose your own adventure variant of a conversation. It's like if you would like to talk more about video games, skip ahead to
I'd
13
rather
minutes.
have like a visual that tracks like, okay, you were just talking about your cat, and then that talked about hobbies, and then that connected to this, and then all the branching trees. And then I can just like walk back to be like, and oh yes, we were over here just a moment ago.
Yeah, like all these recording softwares have audio transcripts. I want that visual transcript too, Selena. I think that's I think that's the right way to go.
Can like push and pull or something to get the graphics of it would be interesting.
And there's a project for you.
I'm good. I'm good.
Well, Selena, you do have a variety of creative things in your background, and particularly in games as well. We were talking some about your experience with competitive Pokemon.
Yeah, I've played competitive Pokemon for about 11 years. I played on Pokemon Showdown a lot, which is a battle simulator website, and some fan-made forums. I think if my account is correct, and it was actually the day that I started, it was middle of November in 2014, so almost 11 years. I've gone to some in-person events for the more official format. They had the Baltimore Regional VGC event last summer. I hadn't played in person, and I think I went 4-4, 4 wins and 4 losses. So it was a fun time, and my partner came and supported me. So it was a nice wholesome day spent together, and saw some online friends from Discord. So it was a good time all around, and it felt nice to be a competitor again after not doing it for 5 years.
Yeah. Well, and then something like Pokemon too, because this is the video game or the digital game
Yeah, the
there.
doubles too.
Yeah, so like you're this is something you can do remotely most of the time, so that you could actually be in a space to get to do it with other people.
You can play it online. You can play ranked battles through the Switch, and you can also play tournaments online through the Battle Simulator and the fan-made organization through the forums. So I'm generally playing a tournament every month just for fun. There's not really any stakes besides getting your name put on a forum somewhere that falls away to ruin in the next decade.
But you know your
Um,
name's on there.
but I know I'm on there, and when I think, man, I'm having a bad day, what do I think about today? I think, yeah, I won the SS Cup for Generation 8 Sword and Shield. And then I'm like, yeah, that makes me feel better, and nobody will ever know what I'm talking about.
Hey, that's okay, and that's like
It's
a lot of
fine.
these small victories that you don't have anything to show like physically for. Like that's still worthwhile.
I strove for that for like 9 years, and I finally got a major tournament win. And I was just like, I rode that high for as long as I could. That was a happy moment for as much as I wanted it to be.
So, were you exploring, or have you been exploring design things, kind of like what Cube has offered in the Pokemon space, or is this something that's very different for Cube for you?
Pokemon generally has the battling and then the team building aspect, and they kind of keep track of a lot of older generations. So there's always the current generation for the game that came out, and then they keep track for old gens, quote unquote, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you can always go back and become like a master at old generations, or you can stay in the current generation. So as much as Magic has like its huge card database, the different formats and the different ways that you can play both in singles and doubles, and I mean some people make up their own formats for how to play. There's a bunch of ways to be creative in Pokemon just as much as Magic, I think.
With your success in something like Pokemon, why Cube? What drew you to that as a pursuit?
The Bun Magic group had been not heckling, but like, hey, just trying to get me to pull into their corner. And drafting just seemed pretty daunting. I had started with pre-releases with March of the Machines and All Will Be One, which also was kind of like at least 25% of my cube is Phyrexians, which was kind of where I got that personal interest from, and just kind of been like starting out as a typical commander player, and then, oh, hey, Popper seems pretty cool, and I'm not trying to spend too much money. Let me spend $10 and get a deck, and branching into standard a little bit with Arena and the accessibility through there. And somebody on the Fun Magic Discord was talking about what if they made a cube with only like cute critters, And I was like, "Oh, I love that idea," and I stole it right out from under them. So I apologize retroactively.
This is kind of like a forgiveness and permission thing. Is that?
It's a forgiveness and permission, but like I think multiple people had also had a similar idea, so it was just kind of like a community ideas, I guess, floating around. So it wasn't particularly theft.
This is fair use, is what I think I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
I'm technically not a thief. But I think at this point I've made it my own little project. It originally started out named as Bloodborough, which was from another community member as well. I believe it was Nate or Alex.
So this is great, like an amalgam of ideas that we're that we're putting
Which I
together
guess
here.
is like pretty fair for what Cube really, I mean, what my interpretation of what Cube is in the first place is like a teamwork of ideas. And I mean, my collection is like all right. I'm not opening as many packs or going after as many cards as other people. So as much as like the names and the ideas are donations from other people, a lot of the cards have been also donations from other people, which I'm very grateful for. I don't remember when I first. I want to say it's been at least 6 months since I've been working on it. Maybe back since January. So trying to get it off the ground and get the first firing was interesting, and pulling off enough like basic hands from commander decks that I wasn't playing anymore was kind of a project in itself. And I never really cared about like dual lands, so I was trying to get some of those too. So a whole bunch of things that we're trying to pull together.
Well, I don't know that we've actually mentioned the name of this project yet. We
Oh
probably
yeah,
should. So this cube is called currently the Menagerie Critters and Creepers. Would you mind giving us an elevator pitch of what players should expect when they sit down in this cube?
sure. I think that my cube primarily focuses on flavor and specific color pair mechanics. And a lot of what I try to go for is cute little critters facing off against behemoths and mutations. So we get the critters and the creepers that are trying to face each other. That sometimes looks like Phyrexians, sometimes looks like the mutate keyword creatures, generally like more combat focused and instant speed focused and fast kills. And if you're not getting to fast kills, you're going to get stomped out by big stompy green creatures or getting board wiped.
Yeah, then there's so much to chew on here. So do you think of this as like an actual versus, like the cute versus the macabre, or is it more mixed?
I guess it would be more like color pairs is how it ends up working out rather than specific color identities. A lot of the work that I've tried to do over the last 6 months has been to give those color pairs a little bit more mechanic focused. So like Simic is largely mutate based and Azorius would largely be artifact based. And for a third example, rules of threes would be Rakdos is largely lizards and raid mechanic focused.
Yeah.
I guess as the mana values increase, you get more freaks of nature than little critters and like rats and birds. So I guess it's more about the 1 mana versus the 5 and 6 mana.
No, that's fair. I think it's just easy to look at a title like that and think, ah, well, it must be like I am choosing either, the denizens of Bloomborough or the denizens of Duskmorn or something like that. But it's not quite that.
I think I try to make a good balance of not just Bloomburrow because the cube started out named as Bloodburrow. I didn't love that it was, I guess, getting that connotation as being.
Right.
I took the set of Bloomburrow and then just infused it with like a little more macabre to it, and trying to go for a little bit more of pet cards and a little bit more of like personal favorite mechanics than just I took a set and like I added a little bit of seasoning, and now it's I think a little bit more in a place of I could probably drop. I mean, the menagerie is pretty accurate. It doesn't have any humans in it intentionally.
Oh, that's cool. Like zero.
I think there might be one that I left in there. I'm like half torn on whether Beast Whisperer is a human or not. Like it says elf druid, but the art looks a little bit more human.
Well, all I was going to say was I didn't mean to be reductionist on that either. I know it is more than that. I was, just trying to kind of capture the kind of the implied dichotomy of cute and creepy.
Because I was trying to figure out what menagerie meant to me as I was working on it in that same sense of like I think I was trying to describe it as like a collection or like a zoo of all the critters, both large and small, and trying to be a little bit more flexible about what I think that means and what constitutes almost tangibility because like our horrors allowed in it, our illusions and spirits allowed in it, Like if I could capture those, then I would probably consider putting them into a zoo. So trying to be like a little bit loose because then it allows me a little more freedom, but I don't want to lose like the resonance of what I'm promising by saying menagerie critters and creeps. I personally wouldn't expect to see illusions and horror. Oh, maybe I would expect horrors. Maybe not illusions and ghosts.
Yeah, like you want things to be corporeal, sort of.
Definitely corporeal, like Putrefacts, I think is a good example of like a thing, a horror that gets captured and put into a zoo to be looked at. But I also don't really want to be moving towards like the evil nature of like capturing things to be put on display. It's more just like I guess like an encyclopedia of
Yeah,
critters would be maybe a little more humane way of considering what happens to putrefacts once I collect them.
that's so interesting. I was just thinking that same idea of like a logbook or a life list or something that's just like, hey, here's a collection of these things that is not, it's not a traveling circus or anything.
It might be like an enchiridion, could be a close word.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a whole bunch of semantic, pedantic phrases or words that you could choose to pin it down a little bit closer.
Sound off in the comments if you have the right term for a book of.
Oh, that's the word, a codex.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So just your codex of critters and creepers.
Here you go. That might be, I need to write that down. There we go. I'm just going to change the name every like 6 months, and people are going to be like, "What is your cube again?" I'll be like, "It's the Codex. It's a brand new cube.
It's
You've
a
never
fresh
heard of
one. Yeah,
it."
yeah. That's how you get a lot of drafts in. Everybody's drafting your new cube each time.
I think I make like a decent amount of edits, and I bring it out, and I'm just like, I feel bad like if you come in, you're like, I want to play that same experience again. Not like I'm changing 180 cards or whatever, but like trying to update it and stuff. I hope I'm not breaking promises of just like, where'd Valley Mike Collar go? And I'm like, yeah, I caught all the frogs. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I imagine, or I would suggest that being a cube designer is not quite the same as running a restaurant or something, right?
Yeah.
People aren't coming in expecting the same sandwich here. They're coming in expecting something fresh, something different, perhaps, or a familiar flavor in a slightly different way.
It gets like a little bit daunting when I realize how many cards I don't have. Like the Azorius is artifacts, and that I don't think that really hits the resonance that I'm going for. Maybe I was thinking birds might be more blue and white, but like I don't have any bird cards, and I don't really want to go. I'm not really one to go out and buy them, and I don't love doing any alternatives to using real Magic cards as much. Like I'm gonna substitute 20 cards out and maybe do a different alternative, but like I don't love doing that, or maybe I'll go ask the community members if they have some of them. But like as much as possible, I think I played with the cube with cards that I already owned for the most part, and maybe part of the flavor of Celena's cube is just that it's like a little bit pieced together like that.
That leads to a very personal touch too. It's not this pristine list of everything exactly in its place. There's some measure of personality to it.
I think the personality that I also tried to balance with was like power level is pretty hard coming from commander and being like, okay, I have 100 cards and they are all focused on doing this one single thing well, and I know what the plan is, and I generally know how to be responsive to as many possibilities as I can, and then balancing a cube and being like, okay, here's all these color pairs. And not everybody like balances like a cube, I guess, in the same way, but like I want to balance it so that the 5 color bomb in green is effectively similar to like the 5 color or 6 color bomb in any other color. If I do Triumph of the Hordes, is that too strong in my cube? I need to do like 3 weeks of playtesting to find out.
Well, Triumph of the Hordes, that one, my experience is you only have to resolve that once to know whether or not that's the experience you want to have again.
Yeah, but that's why I'm like, okay, maybe Putrefacts as what is it, a 6/5 or no, it's not
5-3 trample haste.
5/3. Like maybe that's gonna be hitting pretty hard, and it gets sacrificed. So I feel like that's a good power balance. But like, like it's going to feel bad to have a putrefact resolve and like hit you or come at you. But like, does it still feel good as the pilot of that? And trying to balance those feel goods and feel bads, I think is like the hardest exercise that I've tried to do so far.
Yeah, so this is your first full cube project, right? So
Yeah,
you're asking some pretty momentous questions, like just in the process of exploring this one.
I feel like I've gotten there with like the 6 months of like playtesting, and I think I've been gracious with myself about like, oh, but like you love this card. You like, don't you want this in the cube? And trying to balance that with like, yeah, but like this one or two drop, it's just the better pick here. Maybe I shouldn't do the seven drop instead, but trying to find that balance. And I think the balance got found with like, okay, each of these color pairs does something that is so Selena focused and so cool to me that I get to express it like that, and then finding the balancing act within each of the color pairs and their overlap with other colors was the way that I kind of like could be a creator and a curator of experience, but then also be like the little teenager at summer camp that played Magic for the first time and it's just like, and here's my 5-drop dragon, Savage Ventmaw, and I make 6 mana when it attacks, and okay, I blew you out of the water, and there's some moments like that I think in the queue, but trying not to have that be like the definitive experience. To me, I don't find that like enticing to get somebody to come back to the circus or whatever.
Yeah, as you've acknowledged, it's a difficult balance to strike because you do want the stories to be there and you want the wins to feel like they are earned or celebrated appropriately, but not so much that, like, like you said, that somebody doesn't want to come back because they just got dumpstered in a way that wasn't interactable.
Maybe like the cuteness of like, oh, I made a Rakdos lizards deck, or like I played a bunch of cute like frogs and stuff gets balanced out by the fact that you are getting faced down by like a Putrefax or like Reaper of Shieldred. So like the feel bad of like getting this big stuff gets balanced out by the cute things, but then I think the cute things do stand up for themselves pretty well.
For sure.
Because that was part of the flavor too, was like if I'm gonna be casting these big bombs and like these stinky creatures kind of thing, are these like lizards and mice, like are they holding up or is it just a thing that like you play and you know you're gonna lose? Because I don't really want people to elect into like Boros mice and think that they're gonna get stomped out by counter spells or whatever.
Yeah, you don't want it to be a trap for drafters.
hmm I've been doing more drafts on Arena because they put a cube on Arena for a little bit, and I started getting to Edge of Eternity's drafting. I'm just kind of getting a little bit better about like, okay, how can I tell what quote unquote signals there are and ways that I can kind of pick a quote unquote optimal deck? How can I be conscientious of what I put into my cube so people don't think that there are things to watch out for or get excited about things that because I'm making promises then to them, and I don't want to make promises that are untrue if there aren't cards to support what they're creating expectations for.
Yeah.
I try to be careful about like I'm designing specific archetypes, and they're generally pretty strongly flavored about like infect, mutate, and the lizards. And part of the current task and challenge was like, how do I balance making these archetypes feel valuable to chase, but then also if you don't end up getting it or you choose a wrong lane or you don't catch the signals when you're drafting, are you missing out? Does that feel bad? How bad does that feel? Is it haha skill difference and you just need it to be like more intentional about what you were doing? Just finding that balance between how I can give the players autonomy to make their choices about their deck, but then also curate what kind of deck I would suggest that they might make in the first place. I'm trying to figure out
Yeah.
how to do that as a first cube designer was challenging.
Yeah, like how much weight do you put on like that there are decks to be constructed from among this versus there are pieces that you can put together in different ways? Like, is that a fair way to ask that?
Yeah, I guess it's trying to balance between like there are pre-constructed deck ideas that I would encourage you to go towards, or there are intentions that I am placing by design. But if you went outside of those, how much am I designing a space for you to have fun and flexibility with and playful with? And I guess trying to choose specific cards that are celebrating a specific creature type or celebrating a specific mechanic and trying to do specific mechanics that are a three-way tie between Selena flavored, fun to play, and also can be splashed at the same time. And I guess finding that challenge has been part of the pleasure in designing the cube in the first place. That it's still challenging to be like, yeah, I'll have to concede that the infect deck is really just an infect deck, and if you don't get those pieces as much, you kind of just have a 1/1 flyer with infect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess I would say that I have done a specific thing, and that I still take responsibility by doing a proper elevator pitch to make sure that whoever is interested in the thing that I am advertising is coming to the table and they're not a player who is going to feel bad because I am offering an experience that they wouldn't enjoy.
Well, Selena, when you consider the menagerie broadly, do you think of it as a more aesthetically focused or mechanically focused environment?
I've always tried to make it aesthetic probably first about like, is this a creature that belongs in the cube and fits that aesthetic? And then also, once I find something and I see the art and I'm like, this is so cool, I really need this in here. Like, I'm looking at insatiable frugivore and it's this giant rat with like the guts of a strawberry that are drooling down from its lips like blood, and I'm like, that's awesome. And then I look at it and I'm like, yes, I'm playing rats, but nothing mechanically supports it. So I try to find stuff that's, I guess, aesthetic but still fits into like the spine and the framework of what the mechanics are, and trying to find, I guess, mechanics that overlapped with each other. Like, it's really cool that I love infect and I love poison, much to some opponents' disamusement, unamusement. Uh, but like, that doesn't necessarily interact with some of the other strategies. And when I look at typical like Golgari strategies, a lot of it is just like reanimation and not necessarily infect or poison. So I know that I'm doing something that's like away from the norm, but it's becomes like, okay, well, I really like that mechanic and it really does fit the flavor and aesthetic and the resonance of it. So I'm gonna make it work. Which, I mean, I think giving myself some parameters like that, where it's like, okay, well, toxic and poison are pretty well supported overall. They're not perfect, but they're pretty well supported, and proliferate is there too. But having that parameter for myself kind of makes it more of a creative endeavor rather than just, oh, is it spell slingers? And here's like 3,000 cards that you could play for is it spell slingers?
Yeah, you have tackled a couple of mechanics that most people shy away from in their designs. You've already mentioned things like
Huzzah.
infect, but also things like mutate or oil counters as a particular theme. Have you found those challenging along the way to support or rewarding? Maybe a mix of both?
I like I mix with it for like at least with mutate, I can balance the duality of like it feels so good to get that stack of creatures off and to make some mutation, quote unquote, that is like powerful and strong, and maybe you're lucky enough to cast an Luna and now it's like a flying trampler 6/6 with God knows what's underneath.
Illuna, the face image of the cube at present too.
Yes, that was one of my favorite cards. I bought the showcase for it, and it was one of the cards where I was like, "This isn't perfect, but this has to be in the cube." And stuff like Archipelago and Pouncing Shore Shark
Yes.
are just like cards where I'm like, these maybe feel bads that I'm like stunning and bouncing stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of just what I think blue does. That's kind of what I would expect blue to do, and being able to like stomp out with the green side of it balances well. I think it at least gets balanced out well enough where it's like all the other colors are pretty good at removal. And if you run into another blue player and you don't have any protection, they can just bounce your whole stack of creatures to your hand. So there's definitely like reasonable counterplay after like turn 2 or 3. So it's not an impenetrable fortress of strategy. I will say that I've had to explain mechanics of mutate pretty frequently when the
Yeah.
cube fires.
You've picked some really great showcase arts, but they famously do not have reminder text.
Yeah, I guess that was a downside. I hadn't considered that. I made an Aluna commander deck, and I was like, I love this. I got to get all the showcases. I mean, maybe the upside of it is like people asking questions about like, hey, what's mutate do? Gets me speaking as like the host of the cube. Because I mean, besides like small talk and stuff, getting like conversation going about the cards is I found it to be a little bit difficult because it's like people like I get a couple times people are like, "Oh, I love this card. I can't believe I found this in here." And then I'm like, "Can I look at it as I'm drafting next to you?" I'm like, I mean, I don't care. Like, it's not that kind of environment when we play, but I'm also like, "Hey, what super important cards to your draft pile did you get?" And you're like, "I don't want to tell you. I got the perfect card."
One of those old tools I try to keep in my back pocket is like, "Hey, tell me as soon as the draft is over. Like, make a note." And then like, I'd love to hear it.
We do pretty good with like the Bun Magic group about screenshotting all the decks and the draft piles and stuff. I haven't gone through any of them as probably much as I should have with diligence. But I mean, I think the joke is that like the creator of the cube usually doesn't goes like 1-2 or 0-3. I would say
It's
that's
bad form to win your own cube,
I
right?
guess so, because I mean, if it's good form to be in bad form, then I'm in good form. I'm not doing super well with my own cube, but I at least get to play stuff that I care about every time, so I'm never sour about it.
I think that's a good way to be. I think many people have tried to explore this idea in different ways, but often as the designer, I think you're wanting to explore things. You're wanting to try the stuff you've put in, or you see the web that you've built,
Mhm.
but players are going to perceive it differently, and sometimes better than us.
I mean, I've definitely run into people that are like obviously higher than me in skill level, and getting some feedback from them about like this is too strong or this is this doesn't do anything. I don't know. Like I tried Mind Spring, it seems pretty good, and it just didn't really match the pace. Or like Lurus of the Dream Den was in the cube for a really long time, and I just kept getting so many critiques of like, hey, I played this and it went too well, or like it just did way too much, or a couple people that were a little
Mm.
bit sour about having to face it, and I was like, okay, one or two times it's like that's good feedback, and then once again more than that, it's kind of like, okay, I really should reconsider what this card is doing in my cube.
Yeah, Luris particularly pretty polarizing, I think.
Yeah. That's where I think it got harder, where it was like a lot of I think the cards that match that power level maybe weren't in the same flavor as being like critters or creeps, and it became a little bit farther distance from, okay, if I want to pull the rest of the cube up to that Lurus level, then I think I'm going to start moving away from what I want the cube to be about in the first place. So, do I
Mm.
recalibrate the entire cube? Not just because of Lurus, but like, do I recalibrate the entire cube and like, where do I balance out power levels? As a player that has never played Vintage either, that's kind of something where I'm like, okay, well, this feels pretty good or it looks pretty good, and getting that feedback in live form about like, hey, this isn't doing anything, or hey, this is like rocking my socks off kind of thing, then that's good to know because as still like a newish player, only three, I mean, 3 years seems pretty new to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I need to learn. There's so much that I'm learning, and then I'm also trying to make a cube about it at the same time.
That's your cube kind of becomes a journal of your experiences in a way. Uh-huh.
I mean, if you look at the history of it, I think there's some cool stuff, and you'll look at some cards, and you might be like, that is a terrible card. How is that? How is that in there? And I mean, I tried to describe what the Gruul deck idea for the cube was, and it starts out as like oil stompies, and even I at the end of the description was like, if nothing works, just do Gruul War Chant and see what happens. You have to get damaged through at that point. I
Our best laid plans.
think it was like got a little bit difficult about the archetypes and trying not to do stuff that was a little bit too narrow focused. There's like a few strategies. Like if you only got one or two mutate cards, they still should be providing enough value to be doing stuff in the first place. Like if you only got a Luna or you only got the Shore Shark, being able to stun stuff or being able to essentially cascade, there's still like enough effects to stand on their own.
Well, and you noted with that too, like you don't have any humans in the cubes. Like all your creatures are valid mutate targets.
That's true. I didn't design it in that way, but that is good feedback.
Well, it feels very important. Most people forget the you have to mutate onto a non-human, but in this case, you just get to mutate. Don't worry about it.
Somebody bounced a mutate stack. There was a frog creature that bounced it and then returned it back onto the battlefield. And they did that, and it came back, and all the creatures just like exploded back onto the battlefield as individual ones. But like getting to like explain those moments and like watch those happen in real time was always a nice treat about like, hey, how's this work? And I'm like, hey, you get all of those back. Have fun.
It's so wild. It's so cool when that
It's
works.
great. Like being able to talk about my own cube is always just like the treat in itself, especially when it's real time. How does this work? Being able to just get to interact and share my cube and myself with other people is always the pleasure.
I love that idea too.
I was looking at the bats, and like I love the Zoraline Commander 2, and I pulled my Zoraline back when I did a pre-release event. So I try to share like the cards that matter to me as much as possible, and then can I make a bats archetype in black and white for the cube and it works pretty well, or is this a strategy that only works in Commander or Standard or Pauper? And I mean, when I'm sorting through each of the cards on Cube Cobra, they also get some categories about like all color good stuffs. And they're just a pile of like, these cards are either great or they're maybe not great, but I think that they're just so much fun to play. I'd gravitated towards like, I guess, infect and mutate because those were largely mechanics that I had just found early on in my Magic playthrough, starting with like Commander and stuff, and Vishgraz.
The Doom Hive,
The
yeah.
Doom Hive was one of the first commanders I had played. I didn't know what precons were, and I just kind of found a deck list online and went from there. And I was like, "Oh, this is great! Don't people love playing this?" And I went towards like a local play group, and I played Vishgraz, and they were like, "We hate poison, we hate poison," and I was like, "I'm so sorry, but this is so fun." In fact, Golgari and the cube largely is like mid-range. I think I can start to push some damage and start to push Toxic once like Putrefax is getting re-added back into the cube. But a lot of it is like hitting from afar. Like I dropped Skittles, the Blight Dragon,
Yeah, Skitherix.
a little bit too good, but like Contaminant Grafter, there's another green 3 drop that has trample and pushes infect damage or pushes proliferate through.
Bloated Contaminator, I think?
Yes. There's definitely ways that you can use combat tricks to get through a fun it depends on what your definition of fun is, but like Caressive Phyrexia for 5, the sorcery is pretty cool. If you're close to the end of the game and they're at like 7 poison, you can make them draw 3 cards. Then they also get the 3 counters. So there's a lot of ways that I felt like I tried to make it interesting.
Have you found it tricky to balance toxic versus infect to get the poison counters out?
Not yet. Could still reach the same poison end. I think if I wanted to play Infect a little bit more aggressively, then that would work because -1/-1 counters are just play a little bit differently than raw damage of Toxic. It's like a little bit complicated, just another thing to explain when it comes to like that and Mutate, but largely I think it's intuitive enough for people to join into.
Right. Well, I know, just thinking from the draft side as well, where like you'll take a toxic creature in a non-infect type deck, but an infect creature is a tough sell if you're trying to win through combat damage.
Yeah, I think the toxic ones are largely packaged with the contaminant grafter effect and the bloated contaminator effect, where it's like, yes, you may get 1 or 2 poison counters through toxic, but what the toxic creatures end up doing is largely more proliferation, and then the infect ones are the ones that are getting the damage through combat. Because there's stuff like Plague Stinger, that's a flying 1/1 for infect. Bilious Skull Dweller was the one where it's like, okay, do you want to take the 1 poison or do you want to do the trade for the death touch? So I feel like I tried to balance it between like it's not just the poison that does it, but like, do you want poison or do you want this secondary effect that you may consider to be worse in the first place?
Selena, you mentioned making changes even today, in preparation for this conversation. How have you felt about making changes to an environment like this as like, an inaugural foray into designing cubes? Like, is that easy to make changes?
I think every change is painful, honestly. It's a nice dichotomy of like, it hurts to make every change because I want that card to get played, but then I'm also holding the cards in my hand of like, oh, this would be so fun to see this resolve and trying to balance out that like, okay, well, mechanically this makes a lot more sense, or this flavor wise makes a lot more sense. How can I balance that? And I think the kind of cube started out with like, okay, here's this removal card, and it generally is a good removal card, but I have one that's more flavorful. I replaced something with time to feed and having like the beast on the card and having it be a fight spell and still be removal was like a good balance between like, okay, I love how this card looks, I love how it plays, and it does what I want it to. And sometimes there's stuff where I'm like, okay, this doesn't need to be in the cube anymore, or it just doesn't really match anymore. So those ones feel a little less painful. But once I get down to this point where I'm like, okay, I really need more creatures in the cube, or I really need more removal or interaction, trying to find that balance between like, here's a card where I think if I look at this and in my draft, pick one, pack one, Am I excited to play it? Do I think it's like a cool card to look at? And does it remind the player that they're like making a zoo of their own? Trying to like balance out those feel goods as I'm as for a designer with like the feel bad of like, no, no little mutate creature card, come back. Like, I need you
Yeah,
to
you can't just run
stay.
the entirety of Ikoria. You know?
There's like some blue souvenir scrapper. It's like a raven, but it's like 5 mana and it's a mutate card. I'm like, oh, I'll play that. And it just doesn't do anything. And I'm like,
Mm,
I want more mutate in here. I'm so sorry, buddy, but like you can't stay. You don't do anything.
yeah, the joy of juggling a whole bunch of different goals and needs.
Yeah. I was trying to like rebalance out like what does Gruul do? Oil counters were cool, but it wasn't really meshing as standalone cards. And I was trying to consider like I love dinosaurs. I've played so many dinosaur cards. How can I make
Gruul has
dinosaurs
some good
work?
dinosaurs.
They do, but their mana ramps are all humans.
Oh no,
So I was
it's
like,
like from the Ixalan set. Yeah.
because I was like, oh, they got they're like worshiping the dinosaurs or whatever like the lore is. I'm not big on that personally, but like all the dinosaurs are like 3 or 4 mana, and there's not very much that's like 1 or 2 that does stuff. So I was trying to figure out how to do that, but I don't own enough of them, so I was like, I don't want to really, add to my shopping list of going and buying up, 20 dinosaur cards. But like just making it work is fun, and maybe it's not perfect, but people get excited about playing dinosaurs anyways. I was trying to figure out like how to balance, like maybe I don't find the white blue as engaging. Maybe I just don't make a color pair that is defined by that, and those slots that would be curated towards that color pair are instead put towards other blue and white cards that I care about more. Does it feel sacrilegious to not have, an Azorius defined color pair? I think it's probably like where I'm at as a designer and as a navigator of a curating cube experience.
Well, for my part, I don't think that's sacrilegious at all. I think there's something about making those decisions of, especially for a project like this that is so much about your desires and the things you want to play with. If it's like, man, there's not any of these that I'm really excited about, I think it's totally fine to not put them there. Plus, if your fixing doesn't support a whole lot of multicolor play, like beyond 2 or 3 colors, then yeah, the like an Azorius card is going to go to one drafter at the table, maybe.
Yeah. I've run like 5 dual lands for every color pair. I honestly don't know if that's like a lot or a little, but I ran 4 and it didn't feel like enough, so I'm trying out 5 and maybe I'll do 6.
There you go, testing.
Testing 1, 2, 3. I think when you say like giving myself space for like enjoying cards and playing cards that I want, it felt good maybe as a personal endeavor to be making a draft experience where like I get to allow myself to enjoy these moments and to enjoy like, yeah, these things are wacky and I feel like a little bit of ways about having to explain infect and explain mutate, but being able to like take that in stride and be like, no, these are like cards that I love and I can speak on them, and we've already,
Yeah.
talked for a bit, and like I can make space to let myself celebrate, a project of mine. I think it's also like doing the elevator pitches and stuff has been good progress for like helping me to speak up for myself and to, make concise statements and be like, hey, here's my experience and I'm so happy to have you here. And also just kind of like make a nice crowd of people that are happy to share this with me is always like a good personal development.
With that in mind, Selena, can you speak a bit to how your local cube group has been influential in your work on this project?
Yeah, I was speaking before that like a fair number of the cards were like donations, and people are always pretty happy to help. I'm not asking for like 300 cards, but like, people are very kind, and I try to give back with my collection isn't as diverse, but try to give back to what other people are looking for too. I mean, I largely was able to start playing Cube besides like the physical donations because the Mud Magic group had the skeleton, the framework for here's what we're playing, here's what we're doing, and I appreciate that they're like we're gonna fire at 6:30 whether you like it or not. And that's not the attitude, but like I appreciate that they're like
Come rain or come
I'm a
shine.
little
Yeah.
type A, and great. We've played in rain, and we've definitely played in shine. Our old venue at No Land Beyond before they changed locations and got a new space was like they had that outdoor space that was all like picnic tables and stuff, and it just felt like a nice, cozy campground space, like your kids and teens again, like summer camp kind of thing. And when it got too dark and using your phones to check out the cards, or like people brought lanterns like it was a campsite, it becomes like a personal endeavor and a personal space. And it's, I mean, Baltimore is a pretty queer city in my mind, and like there's a fair amount of people that are trans and non-binary and LGBTQ in general, and like the playgroup reflects that too. So it's nice to walk into a space and be like, to feel welcome as a player and feel welcome as a person is important, and it's always great to just be able to play Magic like that. I think Andy was trying to get people to play Magic at like 7 a.m. on Fridays, and I'm trying to get myself up to get myself up to do that because that'd be so much fun. But trying to make it work and just trying to get people excited to play Magic and to make a good space and set a good precedent is are all things that I'm grateful for.
Do you think you would do anything differently, knowing what you know now, having been through this first inaugural 6 months of designing your own cube? Would you do anything differently if you were starting this project from scratch?
I don't think so. I think I like the advice that I got from the playgroup was literally just think of an idea and go through your collection and see what matches it. And I had a blast just like pulling out the boxes and just being like, okay, what do I got? And finding stuff where I'm like, this is a creature. This looks playable. Making huge piles across my living room table. It filled the whole thing. I'm organizing them by each of the card types and stuff, and that was a blast. And I have all the photos of like here's everything organized and what's playable, what's really not, what's fun, what's a pet card, what's a must keep. Just being able to start from there and now reaching the point where it's like, okay, these are ones where I'm like, I've fleshed out. Demir is like surveilling and rats, and I really need this one rat. It really fits in the best, and I can't. I'll make the exception of like making a shopping cart and being like, I really need this card or that card in there. I think kind of helped me feel comfortable with like starting out as the cards that are my personal collection, cards that I'm excited about, and I'm pulling in from community members feels great too. And now that I have a better idea, I feel more comfortable being like, I'm going for specific targeted cards and I'm going to make a specific experience. And I'm sure that I'll keep coming and going, but being able to start out with like the cards that excited me most and the cards where I'm like, this has been sitting in my box and it's not a commander card, it's not a popper card, but it is a cube card. And let's see where like that can come and go. Has been a lot of fun. And I'm not really sure what I would do for like a second cube. This one is already an ongoing project, and it's fun just to play a commander game or go through my collection and be like, oh, I really wish this could fit in there. Let's see if I can like slot this in anywhere. And maybe the change for like 3 months is that I'm playing this terrible card, but it's fun to play, or this too powerful card, and it lasts for like 3 months before people are like, "This has to go. What are you doing?" But like making it work and figuring out it as I go, I think making the process dynamic makes it more fun. And as I say that out loud, it sounds kind of more in flavor too of like a zoo is always cycling out, or maybe not cycling out, but like, oh hey, we got this panda from the San Francisco Zoo, and being able to like bring in new attractions and new beasts and critters to show off to people is always fun.
Well, you've already hit on a number of, I think, really helpful things to offer to other folks, but I do like to ask as we consider your project here, what advice would you want to share from your experience with other designers as they consider their own projects? And particularly as a first-time designer, what are things that you found helpful?
I think just allowing yourself to like have those cards that you think are fun and see what kind of backbone that those create is really the most important part. And crafting resonance and crafting what the aesthetics of the cube can be, I think is a lot easier to fluctuate and to get to like mold and craft it into what it could be. Because at the end of the day, they're like you're playing the cards, you're not playing the idea of a cube, and trying to get it into a direction of where like you're always excited to fire your own cube, or at least you're always excited to show off your cube and have 8 new people come and play it. Because I've thought about like I want to show off my cube, but like this cube this other person's bringing is really exciting and I really want to play it. So how can I get the best of both worlds? It's like, okay, maybe I'll put this down and be like, okay, you kids have fun and go play like somebody else's cube might work. but I'm always excited at least to share it in some way and making it like that personal project that you're excited about. I guess I would balance that advice of like always having fun with like sometimes I have had to make concessions about what is best and healthiest for the cube, especially when it comes to like dropping Luris or adding in a strong card or just adding in a card that's like typical of Magic. Like I love playing Lightning Bolt, but like if a cube didn't have Lightning Bolt, I think it would be okay.
Well, Selena, there's so much that we could explore with the cube, and I'm sure we would we would never run to the end of the things to talk about here. But I want to make sure as we trend toward wrapping up that I get to ask you one of my favorite questions. If you could pick any card to be printed as a promo, what card would you choose, and who would you have do the illustration?
So I had said that I had listened to another episode of the podcast, tried to think about it for a little bit, and I think the answer that I came up with was Yargle and Multani from March of the Machine.
Yes, some of my favorite flavor text.
And I think I would have Alexis Zirit do the art for it. That person had done it for Ocon, Eye of Chaos, and the Eye of Wisdom. And it just kind of looked a little bit beast-like, and it really centered like the character on the card itself. So I felt like doing something that was like a nice action shot, but with like simple line work and bold colors would make Yargle pop.
Oh, cool. So when you said the Okown, I guess I'm not sure how to pronounce this Cyclops Berserker, but
Yeah,
I was thinking of the like the main set art, but this is the secret layer heads I win, tails you lose art,
yeah.
like a comic panel almost.
The Zinder Splint, Eye of
Cinder
Wisdom.
split,
Yeah,
yeah.
they really some Magic cards are really name some stuff that I'm like I just need to learn different languages in order to be like more sensitive to how to say some of these things.
Well, you could be forgiven for mispronouncing homunculus names. They're intentionally vowelless.
That's true. Like Yargul Multani has good art, like the base art for it is cool, and it got the this was just like a showcase treatment when it's like
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
stained glass window like effect for it, and I'm not a big fan of its secret lair being like a Slimer and Stay Puft Ghostbusters reference. Like I
Yep.
get it, but come on. And then the flavor text for it is like Ghostbusters quotes for it. But like I do appreciate as well that Multani's big quote about like how we fight in the war, and then Yargle's just like ha and just swats a Phyrexian like flying demon thing out of the sky is great.
It is a really comical pairing. For as much as some of the things in March of the Machine were a little tongue in cheek, like
Yeah,
I think it's really funny.
I loved a lot of the duo pairings in the first place, and I when I was looking at Commander, because this was my I think my second Commander, and being able to just play like an 18/6 and just be like, yeah, it tramples now. What are you gonna do about that? Was really fun. I was trying to see if it fit into the cube or not, but maybe an 18/6 for 6 is a little bit too stinky.
Well, it doesn't have trample endemically, so maybe.
I swear I had a copy of Rancor and I can't find it, but as soon as I find it, I'm gonna add Rancor and Yargle and Multani and see what people do with it.
Well, Selena, this has been a treat, and I'm so grateful to you for guiding us through so much of your cube and your experience.
My pleasure.
If folks want to follow up, maybe peruse the menagerie of critters and creepers, or connect with you, what would be the best place for us to point them to?
Sure. Both my Q Cobra and my Mox Fields are my name, Celaena Sword, Celaena. My Mox Field has like 101 commander decks for people to look at.
Wow.
I've only got the one cube so far, but it's always in motion. And if you're on Blue Sky, then I'm on Selena at Blue Sky as well.
Perfect. Well, Selena, this has been a treat. Thank you so much for again for spending the time, and I certainly wish you all the best as the cube continues to grow and develop.
Thanks. Thank you for having me and appreciate getting the time and space to talk about things that I'm passionate about.